Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Should the state fund the transportation costs involved with children who are moved to Wareham by the state on a temporary basis?
To say they should, I mean, yes, they should. Yes, they should. What I mean? But that's well, you had one of those unfunded mandates. Yeah, they should. I guess that's the short answer to your question. But it's not going to happen until people get together and again say, and I say people, I'm talking the 80%.
Yes.
That get all the right leadership between the school committees and state reps, and knock on their doors and say the state should be doing this. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It would be helpful to our transportation costs,
it sure would.
because I'm sure even though the other towns that don't furnish the transportation or don't have a transportation department, and they wind up contracting out, they're affected by it as well.
Sure, absolutely,
Which is one of the things that was brought up when I was on the finance committee many years back. I was the representative for the schools, okay, from the finance committee to hear what was going on in the schools. And transportation was an issue where we had to get rid of 79 buses at the time, or whatever it was, because the bus had a problem in Florida. There was a bus made by this particular company, and the bus tipped over with the children, and there was something wrong with the roof of the bus. And I don't quite remember whether or not this, how many children were injured or what happened, but they decided, whoever they are of power, that those buses are no good. So even though we had our buses inspected by the Registry of Motor Vehicles, which was still around at the time, and they inspected all the buses, and there was really nothing wrong with the buses. We had to get rid of our buses.
Oh, really?
So we had, because they were all that brand. So that brought on a transportation committee at that time.
What was this?
Probably, your superintendent and Jeff Sweat can tell you when that was going on. But it was, and it wasn't Superintendent Rabinowitz, it was Superintendent Collins, if you remember Collins. He was I think it was Collins who was the superintendent before Barry Rabinowitz. But anyway, he was on that committee at that time, and I sat in on that committee to look into the fact of maybe going and contracting it out and giving up the buses here in Wareham. And that's when we did all that information and checked it out and found out it was cheaper to keep it in home. And one of the reasons was, in particular, was the fact of people coming in to Wareham who were moved in by the state, or someone just moving to Wareham, and this is not to hurt someone with a disability. But if you need a special bus to pick up that child, that changes your contract when you have it contracted out. So when you get a contract from a contractor to do the buses, it's not necessarily going to be the amount that they give you. It can change.
Sure, yeah.
Or even just somebody moving in. Like one of the things they explained, because the Department of Transportation guy was there at the committee meeting, and he explained that what had happened is somebody moves in down the street, and if it's a young kid, that you have to transport, Now that changes the bus. The bus didn't have to go all the way down the street
Yes.
anymore. And now it has to go down the
Yes,
street.
yes.
So it changes things,
oh,
you
yeah,
know.
absolutely.
And that will affect your contract with your contractor.
Yeah.
And you have to think about that when you do things, you know.
I do, and actually there's going to be a Transportation Action Committee meeting tonight at 5. I'll be going to that. This will be the 5th Action Committee meeting.
Yeah.
But you bring that up about the in-house versus out-house and outsourcing. It's pretty. They've done as best as they can so far to come to an apples and apples comparison. And on the conservative side, they say it's about $400,000 cheaper to do it in-house. On the conservative side, it's probably even more savings there.
Yes, it is.
But it's something that was brought up at candidates night when one of the selectmen had said, you know, they said if we decide to keep the buses in-house, you know, you'll be, you know, looking at a debt exclusion article to do that, and actually it's either way. You know, if we're going to be busing kids, if either we do it ourselves or if we outsource it, either way you're going to be looking at debt exclusion articles, $400,000 more. Perhaps even more than $400,000 more if we outsource it. So,
Yes.
so that I just wanted to clarify that. Either way, you know, we're looking at debt exclusion if we're going to bus our kids.
Right.
I mean, you know, there's the Plan B they keep talking about, which is maybe.
It was around 2003, the bus recall.
Okay.
I
2003.
I moved
It
here
is
in
the one.
2004.
Oh, okay. That's why.
2003,
That's why.
2004 was
Okay.
when the alert
Yeah.
came out, and they had
Okay.
like a year to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my son spent his 2nd birthday here, so it was before school. You know. So,
No carpenter buses.
okay.
That's what it was. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Steve remembered they were called the carpenter buses.
That's pretty good.
So
They
the
came back like
carpenter
that.
buses had to go.
Gotcha.
But
So
yes.
that's where we are with the school buses.
So I have a little bit of a knowledge
Yeah,
from
sure you
it
do.
with a little bit of a background. Now my daughter went to Wareham High School and she just turned 49. However, when she went to Wareham High School, that was before the new high school was built.
Oh.
Okay, and so actually where the middle school was the high school.
Yeah, they keep telling me that.
And-
That's interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she went there, and when we ran into a problem, what they did was double sessions. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that's the history of Wareham schools, where she had to get up real early in the morning and go to school,
Okay.
and then they had a second session that came in later on.
Really?
So they were called double sessions. And she had the early session. And I used to say, of course, she was already going to high school at the time, and I told her, quietly, Lisa, quietly get up, you know. And but that's the way it was, you know, really a ridiculous hour. It was a
Yeah.
very, very tough time in Wareham.
Yeah.
But we survived that too, you see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting you say that. Yeah, we survived this too. There's a lot of things that people keep telling me about, but you know, we did. We survived them.
Yes.
We get by.
But but you know, we really have to do something
We do.
about it.
We do.
Okay, now I went off with the crippling the schools and state funding the transportation costs. I have my list of questions so that everybody's fair to answer the same questions.
Okay.
Okay. What's the best way to keep transportation within Wareham? In other words, do not contract it out. Is there a more, what really you have to look at is a more lucrative way to fund the buses?
Is there a more lucrative way to fund the buses? The only way I think to make it lucrative would be to charge the people that use them. I mean that is the Plan B. Some of the people want Plan B to be Plan A, you know. But yeah, to make it more lucrative, I think they're doing a pretty good job now of you know, renting them out whenever they can. I mean, I don't know if you attended the Cranberry Festival at A.D. Makepeace. I don't know how many buses they used, but they used a ton of them, and it was run like a well-oiled machine. It really was.
I wasn't aware of that, but I was told, because I had part of my question was, can we lease out these buses in the summer to organizations? And I think I asked that of Jeff Sweat, and he told me we already do that. You know.
And what I thought was interesting is that I'm pretty sure that was in Carver. I mean, where you actually go, and so you're in Carver and you're seeing Wareham school buses everywhere.
Right,
you know,
right.
I mean, they're using innovative means such as that where they can, but there's only so much of that. If you have to, like I said, I think the only way to make it more lucrative is to actually charge your parents, to do it, and frankly, we would. I mean, it comes down to means. I don't know. I mean, a lot of parents probably couldn't, but I think the number they've been floating around is $180, $180 a year to bus your kid, and we if it came to that, we would pay that, but honestly, I think it should be a debt exclusion item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like a debt exclusion better than an override. I mean, there's both of them going to be on the warrant, but a debt exclusion, at least at the and it's a 5-year. At least at the end of 5 years, you're not paying it anymore. Well, which is what we did for the high school.
That's really appealing to me. I mean, there's so much mistrust. I mean, when it comes to taxes and town administration, and let's face it, that mistrust is earned. You know what I mean? So when you have a debt exclusion item, it's very specific. It goes to very specific items, and it goes very intangible things. You're going to have something to show for this when you're done. You're going to have 5 new school buses. You're going to have a new roof on the high school. You're going to have textbooks. I mean, textbooks of all things. You're going to have a feasibility study for the minor to expand. I said it before, I'll say it again. I'm a big fan of these debt exclusion items, but I mean, don't get me wrong, I hate taxes. I mean,
yes.
Everybody agrees we all pay too much in taxes, and you all say that because what do you get for it, right? Well, you're going to know what you're going to get for it with these, and I can't believe the words are coming out of my mouth that I want my taxes increased, but yes. I can handle $20-25 a year. And I don't think that's much to ask for what you're getting with these. Now, I didn't get a chance to answer this at candidates night. I'm not with the override. I'm not so on board. I do have concerns about that.
Yes.
And because for the first year, as I understand it, and I've talked to quite a few people about it, the first year you can say, okay, it's going to be used for whatever you say it's going to be used for, and in this case, we're going to use it to stave off teacher layoffs. Some like 20 something teacher layoffs, 24 I think. 6 at the Minot, 6 at Deacon's, and 6 at the high school. And you're talking, the teacher to student ratios right now are high enough. You're going to be looking at 30 kids per teacher, and that's almost unworkable. But you do what you can. But now with these overrides, the true overrides, the first year, great, it goes toward that, and now that's permanent. Your taxes are permanently, and the town administrator can use that for whatever they want. I mean,
exactly.
and pull some kind of shell game, and look like it's defund the schools, and put money over here, and then say, oh, yeah, here's your override, we'll put it back, and
yes.
And that's what I'm leery of. So I've got. I support it in the sense that I don't want to lose any more teachers. But it's tepid support. It's a shame it's come to that,
Yeah. Well, one of the things about the difference between a debt exclusion and an override, I asked this question many years ago till I found out what the answer to it was. You can't use a debt exclusion for salaries, and
no,
you can't do that. It has to be an override. And because I said, well, why can't we do a debt exclusion for this? And I was told, no, it's not allowed. Now, with the override, I've been told we could keep the override for a while and then pass an underride. But
true.
Yes. I think that once that money is there, the chances of passing an underride is
Right.
going to be very, very difficult.
I agree.
So I'd rather not see that override in there either.